Hey everybody, thanks for joining me for our live look at uh, our storm that's coming through tonight into tomorrow. For us, this is going to end up being a kind of run-of-the-mill winter weather event, but for lots of parts of the country, this has been um, uh, an extreme event of just really huge proportions. So we're going to talk a little bit about why that happened, particularly in Texas, which is where we're going to look at, and particularly in South Texas and along the Gulf Coast in Texas. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about the details about what's going to happen here. Originally, it looked like we were going to be getting some snow out of the storm. We will still get a little bit of snow, but we're going to get a lot of sleet, it looks like, out of the storm, and even a little bit of freezing rain. Thankfully, the freezing rain looks like it won't be too dramatic. In terms of icing up too bad. And we'll talk a little bit, take a quick peek at a storm that's going to come through on Friday that looks like it may give us snow, but we're still going to have to see. The models have really struggled with this pattern. So if you saw my forecast yesterday and you saw my snowfall forecast, I have an updated map, or at least updated numbers. We're going to get a little bit less than we were anticipating yesterday in terms of accumulating snow because especially with the sleet, it's going to really weigh down the snow that we're getting. But there's a lot going on. It's an interesting weather pattern. And so, yeah, let's get started. Let's start off with our satellite imagery. And you can see this upper level low that has really been, that is associated with some very cold air for the part of the country that it's in, is spawning what is just starting to really get going here as a surface low pressure system, although there's plenty of moisture associated with this too. And the surface low pressure system is starting to scream up basically from the Florida, Alabama Gulf Coast, and is going to race up in the direction of New England over the next 24 hours. And this storm is really cooking, so this will not be a long duration event, even though there's a wide, huge shield of precipitation with the storm. So let's take a look at radar and we can see what I mean by that. So you can see that the shield of precipitation is huge, but it's really moving. So even though this looks like, oh man, it's going to precipitate out there for 24 hours maybe with as big a precipitation field as this is, we're actually going to start our precipitation tonight probably between 10 and midnight, and we'll be done, I bet, by noon tomorrow, or it will be down to drizzle. It's really moving along, and you can see lots of convection out to the east here, and you can see lots of snow to the west, and basically a line here. And the storm is basically going to follow this line of very dramatic temperature changes. We have above average temperatures, well above average temperatures in the southeastern United States, and way below average temperatures in the central part of the country at the moment. And we'll look at that later, but it's really that temperature contrast that is helping to create this really significant winter storm. Again, the winter storm is much more significant for those in the southern part, in like the Texas area, where they saw kind of historic kind of snow totals, whereas we here, it's going to be, like I said, kind of a run-of-the-mill storm. Surface kind of shows you that. We've got this low pressure system, and you can kind of see how it's also sort of following this front, and it's basically going to head in this direction. It's going to come almost to Albany, and then it is going to sort of try to redevelop off the coast, but that storm track, that's why we're going to end up with aloft. We're going to get plenty of warm air in here to change us over to sleet as a result of that. And if you look aloft, this is a little nerdy, but it's a good explanation of what's happening in the atmosphere. This is temperature as you go from the surface, temperature or dew point as you go from the surface up into the upper atmosphere, and this is what they measure. These are a lot of the things they measure when they send the balloon up. This is the balloon launch at Albany as of this was 12Z today, so this would have been at about that's about 7 o'clock in the morning. Sorry, 8 o'clock in the morning this time of year. They'll launch one in a couple hours again. But what you can see here that's helpful is you see that there is this layer of warmth, and the temperature line here. You can see the 0-degree line. It's a little hard to see, but you can see actually already at 8 o'clock this morning in Albany, the temperature was right about 0 degrees. That's Celsius, so 0 degrees Celsius. So right about at freezing as you got to basically about 850 millibars. Which is kind of the layer where a lot of precipitation is created in the atmosphere. And so this is the kind of balloon launch data you would see if we're looking for a sleet event. If it's a freezing rain event, you'll see that the warmer layer comes right down almost to the surface, and then you'll have some of that. And that will get into, that's more of a Connecticut issue this time, but Connecticut and maybe up into the Berkshires, quite a bit of freezing rain. I think for us, maybe far southern Vermont could get into a significant portion of freezing rain, but I don't think I think it's going to come on top of stuff. It's not going to cause any power outage issues, I don't think, which is good. If you get, because if anything above about a quarter inch of freezing rain, you start to really get problems, but I don't think we're going to quite get there. You can also see the other thing balloons do, it tells you what the winds are doing as you head up in the atmosphere. So that's what they measure when they measure, and this is the way that meteorologists is called a SKU-T log P map, and it's how we just visualize what happens when we send a balloon up in the air. So there you go. There's your some of your nerdiness for the night. In terms of, well, let me go back and just make sure. I'm going to try to check back in here and here every once in a while. And okay, no questions. But if anybody's got any questions, feel free to add them in. I've got my I've got them on my screen, so when I go to the webcam view, you have a chance to see your questions. If you've got any questions to ask, feel free to ask them in the comment section. Okay, temperatures. This is some really interesting stuff. This is really kind of where the historic nature of this is. If you notice, if you've been watching my forecast for the last few days, at one point we were talking about how it was cold, not crazy cold in central Canada, but what happened is that upper level dome or area of cold air, that really strong cold air, has pushed way south, way further south than it would have. So even though it's modified, right, we don't see any, we're not 20 to 30 below zero here over the central part of the country. This is pushed way further south than you would normally see, particularly across Texas. That's a 23 degrees in the at 5 o'clock in the afternoon in Houston, Texas. That's almost impossible. That is so far below average in Houston for any kind of day. I'm not sure which one of these is Dallas. It's probably the 15. It might be the 10 degree. My Texas geography is not great. San Antonio in the low 20s. Even down in Brownsville, 30 degrees down in Brownsville. Unbelievably cold. We're at freezing in New Orleans. This area of low pressure or of cold air has pushed so much further south than you would normally anticipate. And what it did is it did push snow that far south as well. So I want to take just a quick look because it's worth looking at. Let me change to this view here. At some of these snow totals in Texas. Certainly inland in Texas, whoops, sorry, let me get my cursor in the right spot. We saw some big snow totals in and around the San Antonio area. A lot of like 4, 5, 6 inch snowfall totals in and around San Antonio. If you get up into Dallas, same kind of thing up in Dallas. But what's in some ways even more impressive, it almost never snows in Houston. It's very hard to get snow in Houston. Especially, I mean, flurries is one thing, but 2-3 inches of snow around the city, even 2 inches out here. This is almost to Galveston on the coast. An inch here at Magnolia Beach. Places that never, ever got snow out of this storm. The only places in the country less likely to get snow than some of these southeastern Texas areas is like South Florida, basically. This is very, very unusual. Once every 20 years, maybe they might see flakes in the sky. Accumulating snow, even rarer. Very, very unusual situation here down along the South Texas coast or the Southeast Texas coast on the Gulf Coast in Texas. So anyway, just interesting stuff there. Again, as interesting as the storm is there and as widespread as it is, for us it isn't going to actually be that. The weather nerd in me is interested, but for us it's not quite as big a deal. Let's go back to talk a little bit more about what's going on close to home. If we go back to the temperature map, you can see that one thing that's not, there isn't really any, the cold air, there's cold air at the surface. We're not exactly warm. I had 27 at my house when I walked over to the office here at the church today. But I would say that, it's cold, plenty cold enough for frozen precipitation at the ground. But like I said, we already looked and saw that there's that layer of warm air that was even in here this morning, and that has increased throughout the day today. So what are we looking at? In terms of snowfall, same map I had yesterday, but the numbers have basically all moved back. And basically this is a south to north storm for the most part. Elevation won't make a big difference because what's cutting down the snowfall totals is sleet, and that warm layer is actually going to come in even up above the tops of the mountains here, and so everybody's going to either be in the sleet or once we get into sleet. So I don't think it's going to matter that much if you're at up in the ski areas or not. So 5 to 8 inches, I still think is likely if you head to the far northern part of Rutland and Windsor County and up into central Vermont. If you head into northern Vermont, that 6 to 10 that was on the map yesterday certainly will still happen, probably north of Route 2, certainly in Vermont. For most of Rutland and Windsor, I think 4 to 6 inches. There's going to be quite a bit of sleet on top of that. 3 to 5 inches kind of in for a lot of the bigger ski areas here, for Okemo, for Bromley, for Magic, for Stratton. Mount Snow is probably in that 3 to 5 inches of snow as well, and it will be with some sleet on top of it. They've got tons of snow. This will not hurt the ski areas that much, but it won't really add to. It won't be a powder day certainly on tomorrow. Be a rough day to ski tomorrow because it'll be sleeting most of the morning. And then 2 to 4 inches, and this may even be a little over the top. We may only end up with an inch or two in far southern Vermont as a lot of sleet gets mixed in. And basically, where you see the light blue down here, freezing rain could mix in down here. This is the one spot, maybe like the Brattleboro area, anywhere kind of down along the Connecticut River Valley. Be a little worried about a little bit more in the way of accumulation of freezing rain. I still don't think they'll have power outage issues as a result of it, but certainly secondary roads could get very slippery. Sleet is also very slippery. Roads will not be good tomorrow, even though we're not going to get as much snow as I was thinking. The road conditions will basically be just as bad as we were anticipating. So for some basic details on the forecast, basically starts tonight from 10 to midnight is the main event, and then starts as snow briefly. Sleet starts to mix in from south to north. Sleet could be mixing in as early as 2 o'clock in the morning in far southern Vermont, whereas it could be after dawn before sleet really mixes in if you get to the far northern part of Rutland and Windsor County. South of Route 11, I think sleet will change to freezing rain. So even here, like I live basically on Route 11 or just barely south of Route 11 in Londonderry, I'll probably see a little bit of freezing rain and freezing drizzle at the end of the storm. I think that's about as far north as the freezing rain line gets. Whereas everybody else will get into the freezing rain south of me, and then everybody else north of here basically gets sleet. Everybody gets sleet in the 4 southern counties in Vermont at some point, even up in the far northern parts of where we're going to get more snow, that 5 to 8 inches of snow. They will get sleet on top of that. It's just a little bit less sleet. In terms of other stuff going on, I did want to talk about the storm on Friday just a bit. I'll definitely have an additional... let's see if we can find, where is that? Here we go. I want to talk about the storm a little bit. Let me zoom in a little bit here so you can see this better, because that's going to be a pretty, it has the potential to be a pretty high impact winter storm as well. So this right here looks at, this is more like actually probably Thursday night overnight into Friday, but so this should be like about midnight Thursday night. Actually, you can see the European model has us in the snow. The Canadian model has us in snow. The American model has us in snow. For the most part, everybody's got us in snow. The medium range, the NAM, which is an American model, but it's our medium range model, has us gets us into sleet and freezing rain. So we'll have to see if that pans out. The Canadian short-term model or short-range, medium-range model seems to keep us mostly snow. So right now it looks like probably a snow event, but it's a little too early to tell. Could be a pretty good, whatever we get another pretty good round of snow and at the of winter weather of some kind. So I'll definitely have details as we get closer to that forecast as we head over Thursday night into Friday morning. But again, yeah, definitely could see some another round of winter weather. We'll see if that one turns out to be snow. I was trying to think if there's anything else I had that I wanted to talk to you about specifics. I should see if anybody's got any questions. No questions, that's fine. If you have any questions, certainly you can ask them in the comments afterwards. You can always Facebook message me or send me an email, and I'm happy to answer any specific questions you have about weather in your area, your specific town, or if you've got to travel, like what time to handle that. Essentially, travel tomorrow, the best time to travel would be after, it'll be getting better in the afternoon. Precipitation ends by late morning, so it'll be getting better in the afternoon. So I would encourage you, if you have to travel, try to do it after that time. Afternoon tomorrow, and it should be getting better. That's probably about as much, unless anybody's got any specific questions to talk about tonight. I'm going to end just a couple minutes early, but thanks for joining me. I will have a look at the work week forecast tomorrow morning, since today was the end of a long weekend. So feel free to check that out tomorrow morning. It'll have weather through Friday. We'll certainly talk about the storm some, and then I'll probably have some real detailed look at that forecast for the storm on the Thursday and the Friday storm on probably Wednesday morning. I'll have a video out about that. So follow my social media if you want to check that out. Thanks to my patrons who help support what I do here. And if you want to become a patron, there's links on my website, or you can certainly, there's links in the descriptions. Probably not in the description of this video, but if you want to become a patron and help support what I do here, let me know. And subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed. That way you know when I'm doing live streams and things like that. And if you have any questions about the weather, feel free to ask. Thanks again for following my channel and paying attention to the weather in Southern Vermont with me. Certainly I enjoy doing it, and I'm appreciative of everybody who pays attention. Okay, we will be back tomorrow morning with a look at the work week forecast and some details about, we'll see what's going on with our storm. Probably a lot of sleep. All right, have a good night.